This look into my mind cause I'm left blinded. By my sin.
Did you have more?
Well, so I was gonna.
Do you want to go back to dying?
No.
Okay.
I do want to say, talking about the nature of power and manipulative people and sociopaths, I started listening to the audiobook for the 48 Laws of Power by that Robert Greene guy, or whatever the fuck his name is. Have you heard about this?
I have no idea what that is.
So how about this, Alan? It's this douchebag. I can think of no other word to describe him than a douchebag. All right, who broke down what he believes are 48 laws of nature, on the nature of power, that throughout history people have kind of like engaged in these laws.
I'm sure none of his research has been cherry picked.
Right, and here's the thing. It's a to his credit, it is a wildly popular book with the kind of misanthropic sociopaths that probably make up a lot of the upper echelons of society. I started listening to it because I am literally starved for books to listen to on my long drives. And I just went on Reddit and I was like, book recommendations, and it was like on like this list of them, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll fucking read that one. Started listening to it. It is full of the most hackneyed bullshit that I have like ever heard. With the because like all of it is this thing of like subtle manipulations of like people to be like, never show your real hand to people, talk to people with false sincerity, you know, the kind of thing where
who wants to live like that?
Right. And that's the thing
that sounds so depressing.
The thing that I realized listening to it is like the kind of person who listens to that and genuinely believes in that tends to live in like the kind of social circles where people practice it on one another. And I go, you have to be so miserable in your life to see another human being and think, I'm going to engineer this verbal social trap in order to get Alan to fund my movie, because that's the thing I really want. So I'm going to start off by asking how his day is and showing a brief moment of false sincerity when I relate to him.
Is this a sales book? I mean, this is salesman shit.
Well, so that's the thing, is like all the lessons in this book so far are very commonplace, right? It's very basic bullshit kind of stuff. Where
to what end?
Well, so the idea behind the book is like, this is how courtiers and nobility and people throughout history have gained power in society.
Okay.
To which I go, one, all this stuff is very basic, and two, humans believe that they engage in these things and like verbal judo and stuff like that. And I've convinced Alan to do whatever. And I go, that's not actually the case, because that all implies that you actually functionally can influence anyone to do anything. Mm-hmm. Right? The idea of I can come to Alan and with the right set of words convince him to go murder his brother, right?
I think that absolutely can be done. I think the stupidity is assuming that there's a formula to that.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is the idea of, like, if you engage with these 48 laws, you can convince Alan to go murder his brother. And I go, no, what you can do is be extremely charming, and then Alan can have a series of emotional reactions to some gaslighting bullshit that you do, and he decides on his own, well, the only way to resolve this feeling is to do the thing that he suggested.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see any of that true crime shit about somebody who like infiltrated a family, it's always a long game, and it's always they're clearly working within what they have in front of them. Meaning, like, they didn't go in going, I have a a 12-point plan. They went in. They clearly went in going, I'm going to infiltrate this family. I'm going to drain their bank account. I'm going to get them to convince them that I'm, from space or whatever. But it's not a one-trick pony for every, you have to okay, this one's really sensitive, so I can play on their insecurities. This one's really confident, so I can build that one up and make him feel like he's awesome. I 1000% believe there are master evil manipulators out there. But to say it's all a one-size-fits-all, that's the stupid part.
So, the book talks about kind of that thing, right? But the point that I'm getting at is because the universe is fundamentally structured randomly, all right? Let's say you have he's very confident, she's very unconfident. So if I play this and build up her confidence and do this and undercut his confidence, I can convince them to put money into my bank account instead of theirs.
Right.
I go, that person absolutely does exist, but I go, you go to her and try to build up her confidence, but because she saw a bird that she didn't like that morning, she goes, nope, I'm just going back to bed for the rest of the day.
Well, yeah. I mean, all those stories, it's all a long game. They didn't infiltrate the family overnight. It took 2-3 years of, chess piecing them before they eventually started to really get involved and,
Right. And my point is, I go, that 2-3 years is just 2-3 years of fundamentally random events that convince the person to actually engage in a behavior that they, on a fundamental level, wanted. All right. Because I go, manipulation's absolutely real, but the idea of manipulators as these grand genius architects is this insane thing that humans subscribe, because it's much better to believe for most people that it's much easier to believe that this was some grand manipulation. It was a grand manipulation by the CIA to convince us to go fight in Colombia so they could sell drugs, as opposed to a bunch of people from the CIA went to Colombia and were just like, hey man, we really want to sell drugs.
Sure.
So what if we tell the people at home to, support Greg. Greg really likes letting us sell drugs. Maybe if we just back him, he'll help us do a thing so we can sell more drugs.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. Brainwashing is still very, very clearly a thing. And it's very clearly, I think anytime you hear a story about brainwashing, there is a pattern that all the cult leaders or the crazy boyfriend or whoever, and I'm not even saying that the crazy boyfriend is a master manipulator. I think the crazy boyfriend I think we're both right. I think the crazy boyfriend saw the opportunities when they presented themselves, then snuck in there, did some brainwashing guru shit, got out,
Right. So I think this goes back to the Rio episode we did of I fundamentally don't believe in grand conspiracies.
Sure.
I believe that most people just react emotionally to the thing in front of them. And there are some people that kind of go, well, I'm going to put this thing in front of them in the hopes that they react the way I want. But you never know. You're let's say 9/11 was an inside job, right? There is a fundamentally 50% chance of people going, we need to go invade Iraq, as people going I don't know where Iraq is. I don't want my son going over there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just people. People, they just need an excuse, And even if it was an inside job, right, it would be the thing of oh man, we really need to convince people to go to Iraq so that way we can get more nickel mines or whatever. All right. And then it was just oh, thank goodness this crazy asshole did this thing. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of So How About This? If you liked that episode, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, or leave a review. If you really like this, tell a friend. If you hated us, tell somebody you also hate. Tell 5 people that you hate about us. Find your arch enemy and convince them to listen to our podcast because you hate us so much and you want to punish them for it. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at So How About This One. That's the words So How About This followed by the number 1. If you have any questions you want answered on the show, just hit us up on Twitter and don't forget to stay tuned for new episodes.